is returning to government by the people, for the people. As I lay awake at night, I wonder how a country that's known for its peacekeeping has become the role model for protests worldwide when it comes to freedom. It started with a request by some voters for the PM to respect an individual's right to choice. The hateful response and disrespect of our leader soon made it clear that some of us were not being fairly represented, and that opened the floodgate. The level of support for change is not small. The latest poll shows that the PM is at now the second lowest approval rating in the history of our country at 16%. What's even more concerning is that only one Liberal has decided to follow his Canadian moral compass by speaking up for those he represents, even when it meant speaking up against his boss. And let's be clear, the PM leads his party members, but he is not the boss of we the people. He was supposed to be one of the people who we voted to represent all of we the people. As we look across the House of Commons, what do we get? More silence when it comes to meaningful opposition, such as calling for a vote of non-confidence. As I lay awake, I imagine that government can be run in better ways than we have today. For example, what would happen if we replaced the concept of parties and just had individuals run in each riding, maybe even crowdfunded to certain limits? Then as the winners emerge, they form the government and the rest form the official opposition. This no-party strategy has several advantages. The greatest being that the largest percentage of the population would be actively represented, and the onus remains on each elected member to deliver what they promised in their riding. It's no small advantage where we could break the illogic of people voting along party lines. They would have to actively participate in their riding and speak up for what they believe is needed. As I lay awake, I wonder what would happen if all conversations between politicians and lobbyists would be live streamed and video recorded. In this day and age of computers and AI, where companies like KLM, Royal Dutch Airlines, can sell me a ticket for a very reasonable 500 euros and then let me change my flight date 3 times in just 4 weeks. And all it took was 2 minutes online with no cost at all. And Facebook can live stream anywhere for anybody at 24 hours a day. Then surely monitoring the conversation of those that we seek to rebuild trust in the government shouldn't be that hard. And then take that a step further. All the conversations between politicians and others would be recorded and entered into the public domain a year or 6 months before the next election, so we could decide who is worthy of our trust and who needs to be jailed. That gives them about all the privacy that they need. As I lay awake, I wonder why so few leaders step up. And yes, I realize my suggestions may make the lives of our political employees more difficult. And for that, I feel that a PM should be paid equal to any other business leader. So in the order of somewhere over $1 million per year. But at least we're going to be able to attract quality people. They can always decide to donate if they decide, but at least it opens up the door for honest, sincere politicians to develop. As I read and respond to many posts on social media, as you may have as well, it's become clear that our citizens are divided and hatred has become an accepted form of communication. I challenge anyone who holds a true Canadian moral compass to revisit their own posts and weigh carefully the words we've been using. Are they uniting or divisive? Is it time to be a proud Canadian and say sorry when we overstepped our boundaries? Are we not all on the same side when we wear masks and then we observe as their families operate the businesses that profit from the laws that their family made? Why isn't it already law that people related to political employees are subject to tax audits? As I lay awake, I come to the realization that transparency is the key to trust, and I believe that there are many Canadians among us who would be proud to represent we the people under the aforementioned rules. For those of you who have considered leadership, remember that Mel Lastman became the mayor of North York at the age of 40 and was mayor for 30 years and put it on the map as the new downtown of Toronto. And Hazel McCallum was first elected at the age of 57 and led for the next 36 years. These are and were both business people and were still attracted to politics, where they did a respectable job fighting for what was right for their constituents and building unity in the progress. When we, as peace-loving Canadians, stood up against our own government, we inspired the world to stand up for their rights too. As we can see, while the police and armies in Europe are preparing to battle their own citizens, our military and police still watch their own personal moral compass, despite orders to the contrary, at least for the moment. We know that the time has come to flush out the sewers that our parliament has become and start with a fresh slate. Stay the course, It won't be long now before the Prime Minister snatches the crown from Kim Campbell as having once again destroyed a political party by ignoring what we, the people, voted for. If you have what it takes to become a leader, why not share your views on the podcast with me? If you'd like to get to know me better, watch the podcast episodes on Spotify, the 24 Life Ingredients. Remember that if we're not uniting, then we're dividing. And the place of most Canadians has always been peacekeeping and unity. So watch for the divisiveness in our own language, in our own words. All the best.